is the third installment of the Cars trilogy that we now have. It's the second trilogy to be made by Pixar. This and Toy Story. We got a Cars trilogy before we got Incredibles 2. That's just insane to think about. But whatever, we're back into the Cars world that admittedly makes no sense, but Lightning McQueen is back, still racing, having a great time until he realizes that he's getting up there, he's getting pretty old, and a bunch of newcomer rookies, one of them played by Armie Hammer, are starting to win more races than he is. They're starting to get more advanced tech, and after a brutal crash that Lightning McQueen faces, after that a lot of people are filling him with doubts that maybe he should just retire, but he decides, no, I'm gonna decide when I'm done, and he's gonna prep with the new character Cruz Ramirez for this big race that'll ultimately decide if he's gonna keep racing or if he's actually going to stop. I'm a fan of Pixar. I pretty much like or love all of their films except for the Cars movies. Even the first one, a lot of people will probably say that that's the good one. I don't even like that one. This world that they've created makes absolutely no sense. I can make an entire video talking about how none of this adds up and how it all takes me out of the movie. But of course, that first Cars movie is not even close to being as awful as Cars 2. So going into Cars 3, I already kind of knew that it wasn't going to be as bad as Cars 2, because that was, wow, that wasn't even like Pixar. But still, when they announced that there actually was going to be a Cars 3, I still didn't have much interest for it because I still didn't like the first movie, and 2 was even worse. I did not care for a Cars 3. I mean, Pixar spent so much time after Cars 2 was released with movies like Brave, Monsters University, Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, Finding Dory. We've almost forgotten about Cars entirely, almost forgot that McQueen even existed, and then this movie comes out. Once again, before Incredibles 2. You've got to be freaking kidding me. However, to be fair here, this is easily the best Pixar film I've ever seen involving talking and living cars. So yes, this is easily the best one in the Cars trilogy. What really assures me saying that is that there's a sequence in this film, a long stretch of time, where the movie actually had won me over. The moral was actually quite effective, and the characters who I admittedly at first didn't care for actually started to grow on me, and I was actually feeling emotions for them, and I was getting invested in the story. The movie did a complete 180 for me at that point. Lightning McQueen I never really liked for as a character. In the first movie he's a douche, but in 2 he's just not even a main character. He's more to the side and kind of pointless. But in this movie they actually did something kind of sweet with his arc, and it actually didn't do like a cop-out as far as what its moral was going to be. They stuck to it. Even if it's not what kids are going to like, they stuck to it anyways, and you know what? I was actually very pleased with what they did with Lightning McQueen in this movie, and also Cruz Ramirez, his mentor for the movie, even though he mainly mentors her. For a large portion of it, I was actually kind of annoyed with her character, but during this stretch of time, her character actually grew on me a lot, and I actually started to get invested with her overall character. And I was watching this long stretch of movie, and I was like, wow, I wish the rest of the movie felt this way, because unfortunately, this 180 happens with the last 20 minutes of the movie. The last 20 minutes are the best thing about this Cars trilogy. The hour and 20 leading up to that 20 minutes, though, boring and generic. As I mentioned earlier, that last 20 minutes, the moral was really hitting home, and I was actually really buying into it. But before they could properly execute that moral in that last 20 minutes, they had to set it up first, and it was the most obvious thing. Without spoiling too much, let's just say that before they even formally introduce a certain idea, they set it up in a way that was easy to call out, and that was like 20 minutes before they even properly introduced it. I overall liked the execution of that, but the setup of it was pretty obvious. And a lot of that first hour and 20 minutes is just generic, oh, the old guy, he's not who he used to be, but let's try to train him up and be like the youngsters and get his glory days back. And a lot of that was just really boring. There's 2 great moments in that first hour and 20 minutes, though. There's like this demolition derby race thing at this place called Dirty Hollow that, even though the world itself and the cars and the characters, they don't make any sense, that scene was actually pretty fun just based off the pure adrenaline of it alone, and also the animation for it was just incredible. Pixar never gets bad with their animation quality, so that's not really a new thing to say that, Pixar is getting better and better. It's a thing that's been happening for years now. Another thing that the animation really added to a scene was the overall crash that you've been promoted to with the trailers. That scene where he crashed, my mouth actually kind of dropped. just based off the details that they were adding and the sound design, it was actually pretty great. But besides those two sequences, this movie's kind of a drag. It's really boring, and you're not really invested with any of the characters either. And speaking of the characters, a lot of the old characters, they take kind of a back seat, and thank God that also includes Tow Mater, played by Larry the Cable Guy, because I freaking hate Mater with a passion. I think Larry the Cable Guy is pretty overrated. I don't see what's so funny about him, and I hate his character. I hate that he was the star of Cars 2, so thank God they reduced his screen time, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he's still in this film, and he says some pretty annoying things. As far as the new characters go, Cruz Ramirez is easily the best, even though at first she reminded me of a Dory character just without the short-term memory loss. And that was kind of annoying, and I wasn't really buying her relationship with her and Lightning as of yet. Later on in the movie it gets better, but that first hour and 20 minutes it just really wasn't there. And the humor, there's a lot of bad jokes in this movie. And I don't mean like inappropriate jokes, I mean just they fall completely flat, and it's just, oh my god, I don't know what they were thinking. A lot of jokes in Pixar films are really clever, and they actually work for both kids and adults, and then we get to the Cars movies, and they're just completely terrible. Nothing offensive, but they're still just kind of cringy to listen to, you know what I mean? As far as the other new characters, one of them is played by Nathan Fillion. He plays a character named Sterling, the owner of Rusty's, and his character was just generic, cliched billionaire guy who only likes you if you're making him money, so that was okay. Nathan Fillion has a great voice for an animated movie, and he was fine in this movie. It's just the character is not that well written, nothing new. And also, the villain, I guess, of this movie, Jackson Storm, played by Armie Hammer, he was also just really generic and not well written at all. At least in the first Cars, the Michael Keaton character, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, he actually did something kind of villainous near the end that actually proved like, okay, yeah, I should not be rooting for you. And in this movie, all Jackson Storm really does for the big villain is that he just says some mean insults, and then he wins races. He doesn't do anything that dastardly or anything, it's just, he's mean with his words. Like, that's not engaging at all. And I'm surprised that they actually got Armie Hammer, a star of that quality, to voice this character, especially because of how generic and dull he was, but they're Pixar, I guess they can hire anyone. So is this the best Cars film we've gotten? Yeah, easily, but what really makes this the best Cars movie is the last 20 minutes of this film. And before you even get to that last 20 minutes, you have to sit through an hour and 20 minutes of lame characters, lame jokes, a lame generic story. But for me, a guy who's not a fan of these Cars movies at all, I will say that this one is slightly better than the first Cars movie. However, because I've said that, I can safely assure you that kids out there are going to love this movie. They will love this movie, they will drag their parents out to go see it, and this movie is going to make a ton of money because of that. Just like the other Cars movies, which is fine. This isn't anything that's hurting them or harmful. It's just okay, slightly better than the first one, but it's nothing amazing like other Pixar movies like Inside Out, Incredibles, or Toy Story. It's just okay, and that's still not good for Pixar. The Cars movies, all three of them, are easily the worst they've done. I'm gonna give Cars 3 a C. I think adults will be able to watch it. They may not particularly love it by the end of it, but kids will absolutely love it, and it is more for kids anyway, so whatever, they can go see it, and they can be pandered to all they want, and what do I care? I don't care. But if you've seen Cars 3 already, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.